Friends, we are back from the Netherlands and we had to go back a second time because we could not get enough of Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh is one of my favorite artists of all times. He has created more than 2,100 pieces of artwork in his 10 years that he's been producing art. In those 2,100 artwork, 860 of those are actual oil paintings. And he has a very distinct way of painting his artwork as if they were moving. I know. In his lifetime, he only sold two paintings, The Red Vineyard, or sometimes it's called The Red Vines, 1888, and he was not recognized for any award until years after he passed. The most expensive Vincent van Gogh artwork is called The Portrait of Dr. Gatchet, and this sold in 3 minutes in 1990 for 82.5 million US dollars. That's a lot of money. This was purchased by Ryo Saito, which is Japan's second largest paper manufacturer. And currently, Starry Night is valued at $100 million. And the artwork that we are going to create today, Sunflowers, was actually painted 12 different times, and the original name was not Sunflowers. In fact, Vincent van Gogh didn't even name it Sunflowers. It was just called Large Yellow Blossoms. And Sunflowers sold in 1987 for $39.85 million. That's a lot of money. My K2 friends, our version of Sunflowers is going to look something like this. And my third to fifth friends, our version of Sunflowers is going to look something like this. I'll see y'all on the drawing board. Hey friends, today we're going to do our version of Vincent van Gogh's Sunflowers. And this lesson is for my third to fifth grade friends. And we will need a sheet of paper, pencil and an eraser, or a Sharpie at the end to outline, and something to create color. It can be color pencils, crayons, or markers. My friends at home, if you have watercolor paints, you can go ahead and take those paints out as well. I'm going to go ahead and clear my board. And I'm going to start straight off with my Sharpie. That way all my friends can see my lines while I'm making my lines. So what I like to do is start off in the very middle. And I'm going to start off with my flower that's right in the middle. And then I'm going to have some lines to do that. And my sunflowers, because you are a third to fifth grade friend, your lines are going to be a little bit more detailed than my K2 friends. And then we're just going to go around and just start adding our petals. Notice I've added 4, 1 on each side, and now I'm going to go back in and add towards the middle. And these lines are a little bit more stylized than my K2 friends. And then there's going to be some gaps in between, and I'm going to add in another layer of petals, and this is actually going to look and appear that they're behind these two petals. So that's one flower. And I have another flower somewhere around here. So I'm going to work on the middle. And I'm going back towards the middle again. And of course, we have these small curved lines. This is towards the center of our flower. And this sunflower, my petal is going to be a little bit more pointier than my first flower. So again, I'm going to start off with the 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, and then this one is going to look like it disappeared, but kind of droop that way. 1, And I'm going to create some petals in between that. And then of course I'm going to create some more petals that are in between, and they may or may not go connect straight into the middle. So these petals are going to drop a little more. And they'll do that. I'm going to go at the top. I'm going to have a flower facing the right direction. So I'm going to do a very smooth side. This is the middle of my flower. And in the middle we have that very dark spot. Some curved lines. And now we have to just see that in between these spaces we'll have a petal. So here's petal number 1, petal number 2, and now of course we're just filling in the rest with some petals. So 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to add in some missing petals. This is just going to help fill our space. Again, our flower is facing that way, so I'm going to have a little bit of extra emphasis with just a couple of petals over here. And we'll add in our stem in a minute. I have one flower on this side, and this flower is facing the direction about 11 o'clock. That's the middle of my flower, and I have my black spot. And I have these curved lines again. And this flower is going to have some random petals just floating in the air a little bit. They're all pointing different directions. Two, 3, 4, and again, some of my petals look like they disappear behind the other petals, and that's fine. It's perfectly fine that your petals are going to be in various sizes. It will not look exactly the same as mine. And then now we're going to fill in the middle parts. This is going to help fill in a lot more of our sunflower. So we have one here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sunflowers. Let's add in one more down here. This one is actually a drooping one. So we have a large part of the middle. It's the dark part on the inside. And these petals are a little bit more on the droopy side. And we'll add some more in the middle. Wonderful. Okay, so now we need to connect all these flowers and place them inside of a vase. So first thing I want to do is add my vase. So my vase is going to appear somewhere around here. And of course, part of the vase is going to disappear behind this flower, and that's okay if that happens. And so I'm going to drop this on one side, and if we were to imagine that this would go up to here, it would reappear on this side. And then extend that line just a little bit lower, taper it back in, and connect it with a slightly curved line. We don't want this line to be straight because our vase is not a straight vase, even though it's flat at the bottom. You want to appear to have a nice round bottom. That way everything is kind of stuck into perspective. Okay. So now we're going to add our stems so that way we can actually see our flowers. So this stem is going to connect to this flower. And this one at the back, our stem is going to go through the back and then reappear over here. Almost like it disappears. This one we won't see your stem. This one is going to come right behind and reappear again here. Same thing. This one disappear and reappear. And then this one will do the same thing. So it's going to curve up and come back down because it's slightly drooping. And then curve up and then reappear, coming back down. Awesome. And now we want to imagine that we have the back of our vase showing. So our line is going to go through these stems. They don't actually do disappear, but it appears to disappear. And then we need our horizon line, and our horizon line is going to tell us where the top of the table is, and that is going to go through here and then reappear. And I like to have just a little bit of added variation. So we have a couple of petals. 1, 2 petals. Let's add one more. 3 petals. Great. Now we're ready to add color. If you are using a marker, I'm going to use a marker first. If you're using a marker, we want to make sure we have yellow and orange handy, maybe some browns. I'm going to add in my marker with this flower on this side. So I'm going to just go ahead and add yellow. If you have an orange, it'd be great to have an orange. You're just going to lightly apply the orange on. If you need to have a heavy area of orange, I would go closer to the middle. Need some brown. And of course, you're going to need your Sharpie for that inside part, that very deep, rich black. And I'm going to go ahead and add my markers over here as well. Pretend this is a petal that fell off of this flower. So I have yellow, and then I'm going to have my orange right here. Great. Now, what if you don't have markers and you have color pencils? Let's go ahead and use color pencils. So we have our yellow, our orange, and our brown. So we're going to go ahead and add our yellow in first. This is why I like to outline my work first. That way I can just color over the Sharpie and I can still see my nice black bold line coming through. Typically when you use pencils, for some reason the pencil disappears, the graphite starts disappearing, especially when you're working with crayons and color pencils, and it's not quite as defined as if you would use a Sharpie marker. It's my yellow, and then I'm going to add in some orange, and the orange is just going to be a light amount of orange being applied. So you're not pressing quite as dark. This is just to get some color going in. And of course you'll need some brown for the middle. And even in your browns, you can press lighter or darker, and that's going to help you create more of a three-dimensional look, especially if you press darker in some of the areas. Of course, you need your black for the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and add in my color from my stem. So I'm going to start off with the green. This is going to be here. So I'm going to do a light green first, followed by some dark green. And that just kind of helps with the dimension. I'm going to go ahead and add in green for all of my stems. And how do you know where to apply light green versus dark green? Dark green is going to go anywhere that you have some sort of coverage. So if you have right up here, you have a lot of your flower covering most of your stem, it's going to be a little bit darker closer to here. And this part's going to get a little bit more sun or a little bit more light, so you don't press so dark over here. Definitely some dark green over here. There's some shadow from your sunflower going on to here, as well as your stem is drooped over. So there's shadows all the way around. Wonderful. And if you're using crayons, let's go ahead and add some crayons into our flowers. So we have yellow and we have orange. So we're going to add in our yellow. And we will add some orange. And of course, in the middle, we have brown. And our black there. And then you can really choose which one you prefer to use. I'm going to go ahead and use my marker back for the top flower. So my orange marker to apply some color. A little spark of orange. Some brown on the inside. And of course my black. I'm going to use my crayon again. Use my orange. Just a little hint of orange. Use my brown. And of course the black is going to fill in that part. And I like to use a white color pencil, especially on color pencil and or markers. And this really just adds a little bit of extra reflection and dimension. It really helps capture that three-dimensional look. Just that little hint of white, that's all it takes. And it really makes all your drawings stand out. It highlights a lot of the lighter areas. It highlights the darker areas. It really places a lot of emphasis on different parts of your flower. If you're using a crayon, use a white crayon as well. This will do the exact same trick. Go back into my white color pencil. Again, all you need is a little bit of white. It really does start to make your drawing pop or stand out a little bit more. And so now we're going to do the base. So I'm just going to take a pencil and I'm going to do a gentle outline. We may not need to erase that. It's just so light you can barely see it. I'm going to use my crayons to apply color here. And you would see that the pencil line is actually going to disappear a little bit. My crayon is going to help with the shape or the form of my vase. So I'm going to color in a curved manner. I'm curving my lines as I apply color. So that's the top portion. That's going to be yellow. And I'm going to fill in the rest of the top portion of my vase with my orange. And notice that I am curving the orange. And it's going to blend in a little bit with my yellow. And I'm going to use that same orange and just place it towards the back on the inside. It's a nice, deep, rich color. And now I'm going to reverse the opposite colors down here. So I'm also going to use yellow. So now my pencil line that I originally drew that line in to help you figure out the dimension of the space, the separation of colors, has actually disappeared a little bit. So I'm going to color the space in yellow, remembering to curve my lines. And then I'm going to add brown. And that brown is going to really help create that curve as well. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and add color to our petals on the table. And I'm going to use my brown for my table. So where my vase is touching the table, I'm actually going to press a little bit darker so it creates almost like a shadow on my table, if you would. Starting off this way. And as I work away from that shadow, I'm going to lighten the pressure. And I'm also not going to curve my lines. My lines are going to be more relatively straight. They're going to go in a horizontal direction. And this is going to help define the table. Okay, and now I'm ready for my background. And I have done this for a few lessons. I love to use broken crayons, especially without the wrapper, because they help me fill in a lot of the space in the shorter amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and place my blue broken crayon flat on my paper. And I'm going to just, in a circular motion, being very careful when it comes to my petals, because I don't want to end up with green petals. Because, you know, blue and yellow make green. I'm just going to circle or in a clockwise motion, apply color onto that white space so that that white space actually turns blue. Very careful. I'm actually lifting part of the crayon up so that only one very specific part of the crayon is actually touching the page. All right, friends, and there you have it, our version of Vincent Van Gogh's Sunflowers. I love sunflowers. I love Vincent Van Gogh. Vincent Van Gogh was a Dutch painter who created more than 2,100 artworks in his 10 years of creating artwork. 860 of those were oil paintings, and Vincent Van Gogh had a very distinctive way of capturing movement in his paintings using very short brushstrokes of lines. And in his lifetime, he only sold 2 paintings. The Red Vineyard, or what we call the Red Vines, 1888. And he was not recognized for his work until after he had passed. The most expensive Vincent Van Gogh painting sold $82.5 million, and this was called The Portrait of Dr. Gachet, and this sold in 3 minutes in 1990. Currently, Starry Night is valued at $100 million. So much money. Friends, I had an amazing time with y'all today. I cannot wait to see your version of sunflowers. Y'all take care.